is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Even the normally straight-laced reporters for Bloomberg couldn't keep from guffawing at the Biden tweet over the weekend about inflation. Take a listen. This is Jonathan Farrow.
The president out with a tweet yesterday. I have no idea who actually wrote this tweet, but it's got the president's name on it, so we should probably read it. This is what he says. Let me be clear to any corporation that hasn't brought their prices back down, even as inflation has come down. It's time to stop the price gouging. Give American consumers a break. Chorus on Wall Street, led by Jim Bianco. Apparently, he does not know the difference between prices rising at a slower pace and prices falling.
Apparently, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't.
Prices are increasing more slowly, so you should cut prices. Right. And also, not to mention, the idea that the President of the United States should be issuing some nationwide directive to businesses big and small alike about their prices without any knowledge of the cost structure they face or any concern, actually. It's really a remarkable moment, and it just, again, illustrates that Bidenomics is synonymous with economic illiteracy. Joy Pullman joins us. She's the executive editor of The Federalist, Federalist.com. Joy, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
I noticed there's no call for censorship from the social media platforms of Biden's misinformation. And frankly, I wouldn't want it. I want his misinformation out there so we can discuss it. Maybe that's a lesson, too.
That's a great point. I mean, the whole truth about the misinformation and disinformation mantra that we're being treated with lately, really what it means is clearing the way for the only messaging for people to hear to be the messaging of Democrats. And look, everyone's aware that politicians lie. Politicians on both sides, on all sides, they're always a bunch of liars. But what that means is what we really need to have is the historic American public square for people to have their ideas competing, and people can hear both sides and perspectives of a view, and they can assess, who has the better argument and the better facts. And so I think really the censorship is an admission that, the people on the left really have no valid ideas, such as we're talking about in economics. We know inflation, it's been proved by Nobel Prize winning economists to be caused by government spending more than they can take in taxes. Inflation, if you're mad about inflation, you should be mad at the government spending and spending and spending and spending, because then what it is forced to do in order to avoid economy tanking deficits is to inflate the money supply, and that, causes all the price increases we've seen over the past couple of years.
Wait, what price increases?
There's people from hearing information like that. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's no price increases. I mean, you do not believe your lying eyes at the at the grocery store checkout. Prices are declining, so you need to take a store manager aside and tell them to cut the price of foodstuffs.
I mean, if you talk to anybody who runs any business, small, medium, big, you know that they cannot hire people for anything, right? So their ability to provide things to people is dependent on them having workers at an affordable price for them to put products on the shelves. But there's another hand of government there too, because government, basically is making it possible for people to get, have food and housing and everything else that they need without working for it. So that's the stated policy, of Democrats. They are trying to cut all the work requirements out of every single means-tested welfare program in the country, and they've been successful since Obama at doing that. So, I mean, that's another aspect of where we have a completely sluggish economy, to put it in the nicest way. Part of that is due to Americans not wanting to work because so many people don't have to.
That's true.
What
about, Biden's not using Bidenomics anymore when he goes on these campaign trips. And he's also, no one's buying any Build Back Better hats or T-shirts. So he's abandoned that.
Well, I mean, the Biden administration, the White House really thought that they could do that thing of spinning around a negative term into a positive, but it didn't work for them. They even did poll groups that found that using the Bidenomics phrase really turned people off because, look, as I pointed out in my article, Americans, there's a lot of things that Americans are not allowed to know because of the censorship you referenced in our opening. But Americans can, every single time they go to the gas pump, every single time they look at their credit card bill, every time they look at their energy bill, they're at the grocery store. We all know that just 2 years ago, prices were, much, much lower than we're facing now. I've been grocery shopping for my family for 20 years. I have all of the prices of my basic staples memorized. I have, this is a good, sale price, buy an extra one. That's been memorized, and it's just in my mental routine for years. Looking at that, just from 2 years ago, my grocery staples prices have increased 25 to 50 to 75% off of all of those prices I've memorized. And normal Americans, they're saying the same thing. So when you say Bidenomics to them, they think, wow, okay, so let's attach Biden's name to what I'm seeing and the inaffordability of everything right now, and it doesn't go well for the White House.
Well, right. They become punchlines. These taglines, these things they desire to be taglines become punchlines. Just like when you go to the gas pump, you still see some "I did that" stickers there, which is jeering at the president, not supporting him. Build Back Better, Bidenomics. These all become rhetorical albatrosses.
And I think if Democrats were more open to actually listening to voters and the American public, then they would be actually making some changes to their policies right now, because obviously their program does not work. It is so obviously completely ineffective. But instead of triangulation like Bill Clinton did all of those years ago, instead of saying, wow, we're listening to what you're saying because we feel like we have to earn your vote, and making some legitimate changes that people can feel and see, and so voters can tell that there's a difference. Instead, Democrats feel like they do not have to listen to the electorate anymore. They feel like there's certain groups of people who will always vote for them that they think are a majority of voters, so they can do anything they want, and they're always going to be in power. And and so that unchecked, the lack of checks and restraints on their economic program really puts us in a dangerous situation, because even if the voters do not consent to, do not like the policies that are governing their lives, they cannot change them, Democrats think. And that puts the country in a really dangerous situation.
You wrote about something with respect to transing your business. We were talking a little bit earlier in the program about the effort afoot by the Department of Agriculture to not provide school lunches to any K through 12 school systems that don't support the gender ideology of the regime. Well, that's also bleeding into federal grants for businesses. I assume things like Small Business Administration loans as well. This is where they're really tying the purse strings to compliance with gender ideology. Right.
So I'm actually writing a book about this that's going to be out this coming June with Regnery Press. And so, but with the Biden administration, when it came into office, they were essentially handed a wish list from the activist group called the Human Rights Campaign. So that's a rabidly extremist sexual propaganda outfit headquartered in Washington, D.C. And they basically said, here's what we want from the Biden administration. They put a wish list of about 100 things, basically to enforce transgender ideology through every single aspect of federal power. So we've been seeing that the Biden administration has been following that like it's that private organizations demands, like it's a playbook for the administration. So we've come to the part in the administration where what they did now, to continue following that blueprint, is to require that every single federal grant would follow, people who, if you want to get a federal grant, you have to trans your bathrooms, let people cross-dress at work, put men in with little girls in their private rooms, and all the rest of it. If you want to apply for a federal grant. So that's a proposal the Biden administration just submitted to the Federal Register. And I think today is, if I'm correct, I think today is the deadline for comments on that to the government. But basically what that's doing is the federal government has immense power. Federal grants and contracts are actually they employ more people than the federal government does itself. It's a huge portion of the economy. So what we see is that these transgender activists basically want to use the immense power of the federal government to herd the entire country into their extremist ideology that puts women and children at risk. And not only does it do that, it's just a blatant defiance of reality. Men are not women. Men and women cannot become each other, and that's never going to change no matter how many surgeries they take to mutilate themselves. So this is a really, communist kind of way of telling everyone that if you do not falsify reality and lie to everyone about the basic reality that men and women are different, then you're not allowed to participate equally in economic exchange and in getting your own tax dollars back to you from federal grants.
And just to put a face on the Human Rights Campaign, for people who may have forgotten, we got Sam Britton from the Human Rights Campaign. He was in the leadership there, the man identifying as a woman who was in charge of our nuclear waste program until he couldn't stop stealing ladies' luggage at airports.
Yeah, that was a very exciting incident. Yeah. The funny thing about that,
talent.
Probably not
strange
funny, but
fetish.
It took the federal government a number of weeks in order, weeks and weeks of pressure and bad press from having this fellow under their employ before they actually put him on administrative leave. It's, by the way, almost impossible to fire a federal employee.
Right. But I guess enough times on video stealing other people's luggage at the carousels, and even the Biden administration has to act. But yeah, no, it's top flight talent there. Not a clown show at all. Joy Pullman, executive editor of the Federalist, thefederalist.com. Joy, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is the morning show. More